What's up, everybody? This is Marshall Lee of DonkeyJawProjects.com, and this is episode number 33 of The Escape Artist. I wrote down The Escape Artist. That's my old podcast, the Early Bird Artcast. And I'm going to have to change that real quick. Or, yeah, I can change it right now. But, yeah, it's the Early Bird Artcast, number 33. And we're going to be talking about SHEcember for a little bit. It's just going to be a short one here. Oh, I'm not writing it in the right thing. So anyways, how's everybody doing this morning? This Friday morning. It's been a busy week for me, that's for sure. And I'm working on my comic and doing all that fun stuff. Spelled something else wrong too. Alright. That is going to be fixed now. Alright. Let's get back to the view page so I can make sure I check in for the chat. I was trying to update my computer, and some things happened. Actually, let me see if I can get to the SHEcember page real quick. Can't do anything real quick on my computer. So if you want to find out more about SHEcember, it's Donkey Jaw. Hey, I love you too. My wife's saying I love you. Let's see. Donkey Jaw Projects. .com/SHEcember. And if you don't know what SHEcember is, I shall explain it. So let's expand this bad boy. So SHEcember is kind of like Inktober, but you can do any kind of medium or whatever you want to do. And it's just to practice and get better at drawing women throughout the month of December. You can either do it as just like something you do in the sketchbook, trying to get better, or you could do a lot of different things. You can spend the whole time making one illustration. You can just make one illustration in one day. However you want to do it, there's a million ways. Anything that involves drawing women, you can do that in the month of December. Tag it SHEcember 2018 or just and also SHEcember. I have a video where I did some tips and tricks on how to draw women. There's a million other ones out there too that are probably better than mine. Here's a flip through of my first SHEcember sketchbook that I did. Was it the first year? Maybe it was the second year. I don't remember. I think it must be the first year. I don't know. And then there's a prompt list as well. And again, this is starting tomorrow. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do exactly for SHEcember. Still, like, I've had a bunch of ideas. Oh, you can also do, a lot of people are like, well, I can draw girls actually really well. I really have a hard time drawing guys, though. So do SHEcember. SHEcember 2018. And also, use the hashtag SHEcember with that, too, so you can be involved in the community. So there's a lot of different ways you can approach it. And, yeah, figured since it's tomorrow, I would mention it. And now it's time to get back to some arts. And it looks like Teresa's here. What's up, Teresa?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Pretty good. Busy as always.
Yeah. I watched your video about failure. I failed.
My little
Yeah,
clickbait video.
yeah. I was like, what happened? I was like, and it was, oh, it's all right. It's not such a big deal. I mean, you're not feeling bad about it or anything, are you?
Well, a little bit. I mean, I put this thing out where, my whole initiative is to get a comic out every month, and to not kind of 100% come through on it only in the third month is a little frustrating. But like I said in the video, I am gonna have, a comic for people out tomorrow, which is just one day away from being in the month. So it's more almost, if anything, an OCD thing, and it seems like nobody else really, it doesn't bother anybody. So
Yeah.
that's good at least.
Yeah, it's not like you blew it completely and didn't do anything this month. It's just that you're one day late. So it's
Yeah.
not that bad, is it?
hmm The thing is too is I didn't, and this is kind of my own thing, but I didn't put out the comic I meant to, either. It's almost like, oh, this, the fact that they were able to release the anthology one, that's like saving me, you know. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. You do what you can do.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And you were saying that it was a problem of prioritizing, wasn't it?
Um, well, yeah, that did play a part for sure. Also, I guess I didn't really get into it too much, but to complete all the pages, it would have had to. I still don't know for sure how much pages the end of this story is going to be, but I think I've done like 7.5 or 7 1/3 pages, where I'm going to end up with the portion that I was going to do last month, or this month actually. It's still this month. Was it's probably like more like 14 pages. So is that right? That doesn't make sense. Yeah, I guess so. That means I'm only halfway there.
Yeah.
um, but that's so crazy. It doesn't feel like that. But okay, well, I guess that's what that is. But yeah, so that's much more workload. I don't know. The fact that I kind of didn't make it is making me think a little bit about, my approach to, because I want to do color with these comics, but either maybe it's not feasible to do color, or maybe I should just stick with black and white, or I need to like come up with quicker styles of doing color, um,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
flat colors or something like this that people are seeing right now.
Yeah. Yeah, my comic is partly black and white, partly color, and the color pages do take a lot longer. But
Mm.
what's really cut my time is a Flaton. You know that website where they flat your page.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody talking about like using that a lot. That everybody seems to experiment with it, and then I don't hear anything else after that.
Oh,
Has
I
that
I
been
use
working
it a
out for
lot.
you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's not. I think it only works with certain styles, but I think in particular the style you are using, which has
Mm.
a lot of big shapes, would work really well with Flaton.
Hmm.
And obviously, sometimes the website doesn't interpret your lines as you would interpret them, because it does what any program does. If there's any opening to a line, it interprets it as the same space. So if you didn't close the line that, for example, separates the hair from the background, then it would flat the hair and the background the same color.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you actually go and fix it yourself, it's only separating the hair from the background and not separating the hair from the background, from the t-shirt, from the eye, or whatever. So it's not perfect, but it does do 50% of the work for you, if not 70% of the work.
Awesome. Yeah, I have used it a couple times. but again, same as what I've seen is just kind of experimenting, and then I haven't messed with it. But now that I'm gonna be hitting those pages pretty hardcore this month with coloring, I think I am gonna actually go and make that my first step.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, how do you normally flat them? Because I find that's the part that takes the longest.
I use Clip Studio, use the bucket tool. It's pretty awesome for that, especially if you have a style that you can do that with. Um,
Yeah,
do you use
yeah.
Clip Studio?
Yes, I have in the past, and I know it works really well. When you have the closed spaces,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
yeah, the clear shapes with. So yeah, it works.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
precisely because it works with Clip Studio, it would work with Flaton
Hmm.
because I think it's pretty much the same system, but automatic.
Cool. So how have you been working a lot on your comic lately?
I've penciled a couple of pages this week,
Hmm.
and I was recording myself penciling them, to
Hmm.
try and how does it look if I speed it up? Because I really like those sped up drawing videos. And
Hmm.
man, I was looking at it and thinking, I have the worst habits. Uh, just analyzing it, I was just, oh my god, I'm drawing with my fingers instead of with my elbow. I'm not, creating a thumbnail or just sketching things. I start with the head, a floating head, and then I draw the body, and that's not how you're supposed to do it. So I
Mm.
was just looking at it and thinking, I have the worst habits in the world.
Hmm.
I need to change. So that was an interesting experiment,
Uh,
recording myself and realizing that I have very bad habits.
hmm. Well, I mean, I, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like, I mean, I draw with my fingers a lot. Um, but I mean, with the when you're drawing small, which usually when you're drawing comics, you kind of are doing that a lot. I mean, even if you draw big, you still have to draw small a lot because the panels and whatnot. And I don't know. I mean, when you're drawing that small, how much are you going to draw? With your from your elbow. Eventually you're going to start
Yeah,
doing
that's
some
true.
other stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I was wondering about that actually. I was wondering if it's because I work in such a small size, because I work small to work faster.
Hmm. Me
I
too, actually.
my pages, yeah, my pages are like half a normal piece of paper. So a normal piece of paper is A4, and I do half of that. That's one page.
Hmm.
And yeah, probably you're right. Maybe it's because it's really small. But then
Yeah.
that's no excuse for the floating head syndrome, which is basically I start with the head always, and then I start like doing the perspective after as an afterthought, when in fact you should lay out everything and then start drawing.
Right.
So stuff like that, I was just noticing and thinking, oh, I'm terrible. Have terrible habits.
I have a video I've been meaning to do. I've talked about it many times actually, but it's about like the order in which you draw. Um and for me, I mean not everybody's going to have different ways. Jeff Lafferty, I'm pretty sure doesn't do it the way that, you know, maybe a traditional illustrator would kind of say you're doing it wrong. I don't know, but like he kind of goes into the detail at a pretty early stage. But if you literally draw in the order of gesture first, form second, and then detail at the very last, like it's hard to stop yourself from doing detail till the end. But if you can do that, like it makes draw at least for me, it's definitely helped me. It makes drawings so much better.
Yeah, I know, and this is the thing. Like, I could do a tutorial explaining that, and I understand the value of it. But when I sit down and I'm drawing,
Hmm.
I forget. I just don't do it.
Yeah. It's like so natural to just go into the detail and start going crazy.
Yeah, I just go step by step, like I start with the head, and I do start with the outline of the head.
Hmm.
Like, don't get me wrong, but then I go into the detail of the head, and then I go into the outline of the body and the detail of the body, and then the outline of the background and the detail of the background. When what you
Right.
should do is go into the outline of everything and then
Mm.
detail everything, right?
Yeah. Do you say like within one panel or like the whole page or?
Within one panel.
Okay.
And that's the other thing. I do one panel at a time, always.
Hmm.
When in fact you should outline the entire page first.
Hmm. Well, I don't really know if you should or shouldn't. I mean, I don't really notice a difference really. I kind of go all over the place. It really, especially with comics, like I do what I feel like doing in the moment because it's such a daunting process sometimes that it's like if I'm gonna try to be super rigid about my process and be like, well, I can't do this because I haven't finished this part yet, then I just get I don't know. I'll get stuck and I'll maybe procrastinate because I don't want to do the particular thing that I have to do next. Type.
Yeah, yeah. I completely get that. But that's
So I
precisely my
gotta.
point. It's like lack of discipline when I do things because I know the result will be better if I follow the process.
Hmm.
But then I go with my, and I do this in a lot of aspects of doing art and making comics. It's like instead of following the process and doing things the right way, I just go, I don't feel like doing that. And then I improvise kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, to me, and this is what I keep telling myself, and maybe I shouldn't, but um, to me, like if you're producing and getting stuff out the door and finishing projects, like I don't know, do the worst, be the worst discipline you are, and then but still produce. Like that's just way more important.
Right.
And you do produce. So I would just say, as long as you're producing, keep doing it. And I find like my comic pages that the first half of Corn Cob Rob, like it was not. I don't know. It was much more crude than what I'm doing right now. And I just find myself getting better already, like with these next few pages, because like I'm just like, I don't know, like I'm not afraid to do certain things. Like I'm not as afraid to do perspective as I was, the first few pages or whatever.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, and I don't know, there's just little things that are kind of getting refined as I go. So it's like the discipline, I feel like the discipline will come. So just get the stuff out.
Right.
Don't worry so
Yeah.
much about the discipline part. At least
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what's been working for me.
Yeah, I think there are different stages. Obviously, it's like with critique, right? So it at the beginning when you're starting to draw, the last thing you need is like real critique. Critique that goes into what you're doing wrong. What you need is encouragement. So at
Hmm.
different stages, I think we all have different needs. And if your problem is that you're not producing enough, then getting your confidence and your productivity up would be your thing. But at the moment, I think I'm producing enough. I just want to get the quality up.
Right.
That's my main focus at the minute. So I don't know.
Mm.
It's like my quality is not going to go up if I don't follow the process, or at least that's what I believe in. I believe quality comes from process, not from skill. You know.
Mm. Do you have a like kind of a goal in mind of where you would like to get to with your art? Like, is there maybe an artist that you kind of look up to that you're like, man, like I kind of want my stuff to be at that level or something? My own thing Or like
Yeah.
is it just or like a personal one or something like that? Do you have like an actual goal?
Yeah. I have people that I look up to. I don't want to be like them because I know that's impossible, but I do look up to quite a few people. Uh, I think we all do, right?
Yeah, I think so. The thing though, I wonder, the reason why I asked that question is because, you know, a lot of times us artists are like, I want to get better, but do we really define what that better is? Like, getting better is never going to stop. Like, if we all follow the progress of never being satisfied and wanting to get better, eventually we're all going to be like, where are we all going to be? Like, are we
Right.
all going to eventually be like, Michelangelo or something? Or like, how much better do we actually want to get? Like, do we have an actual goal? Is there ever a point where like it's like, okay, we've we've kind of gotten to our goal, like this is what I was going for, or is it just this ambiguous, I want to get better and everything I do sucks?
Ah, no, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna like. I think there are two things there. One is, this the desire to get better, and I think there's nothing
Hmm.
wrong with that. And I think yes, it is a lifelong thing. You can never stop wanting to get better. I think is a good thing, right?
Hmm.
But like the other thing is that some people associate the desire to get better with being unsatisfied or hating your work, which I don't see.
Hmm.
Because if you have an aspiration of being like somebody else and you're not being like that somebody else, then of course you're going to always be frustrated,
Hmm.
right? But if your goal is to be better than you were yesterday, then that's completely achievable. And that's a road to always being happy with what you do, because you're like, oh, well, I wanted to improve my lettering and now it's a little bit better. I'm happy. Next. It's just the mentality of continual improvement rather than continual self deprecation, which I
Right.
think, which is what a lot of people fall into. When they think improving, they think hating their stuff, which is not the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely true. Um,
So
yeah,
yeah,
I don't
basically
know.
what I'm saying is that wanting to improve is not linked, in my view, to hating what you do currently.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Definitely agree. I just, you know, I think, 'cause I don't know, like I can look at any given piece and be like, this sucks, and I'm sure in some ways it does, but at the same time, like, I don't know, like I don't want to be in that perpetual state of this sucks. I want to be like a lot of like this drawing, for instance, like, there's certain things that aren't that great. Like maybe these weird little disc things. They're like, I don't know. I kind of drew them a little bit crappy. But most of the backpack is like weird to me. Like now that I'm coloring it, it's like seems like a little too small and a little too close to his back. Like maybe it could be lifted off a little bit, like because he's kind of flying through air almost. Um, but and maybe like some of these weird effects that are coming from his feet, like maybe that's not quite what I was going for, but you know I don't know, like I think I'm tending to get to the point where I'm like, I don't think about all that as much as like, you know what, this is a pretty cool piece, and just kind of leave it at that. um
it, yeah, I get what you mean. But I
yeah.
think is for me, it's a question of separating those two things. I think too many people, especially people that do art or illustration or anything like that, associate too closely as being critical with hating. It's not the same thing. Being critical is
Hmm.
realizing that there is room for improvement, and that is never a negative thing.
Mhm.
Hating is looking at your stuff and thinking that it is lacking or you are lacking in some way.
Mhm.
And that goes nowhere. That is not productive.
Mhm.
And it's
Yeah.
just, you can have one without the other. They're not joined. You join them in your head, I don't know why, at some point in your life. And then you just have to realize that they're different and, make a conscious effort of separating those two concepts.
Yeah.
One is a rational decision, and the other one is an emotional reaction to
Mhm.
God knows what. Yeah, I really don't know what is like. Why do we associate doing something that was below our expectations to being worse or being lacking? It's
Right.
like, no, your expectations were inaccurate. The end.
Yeah. I think we get into that a lot when we do the whole compare ourselves to other artists thing too much. It's weird because, you hear kind of both ways. Like some people are like, well, yeah, you should compare yourself to other artists and it'll help you, get better and stuff. And, I think it's both or whatever. But like, I guess you gotta, it just kind of comes with experience, you get to a point where you know that feeling when you're like, all right, I'm getting really depressed now, and I'm sitting here just perusing through all these other amazing artists' work, and this is not productive because it's making me not like what I'm doing. It's making me not want to do art anymore. It's
Yeah,
making me want to give up. And when you start to feel those feelings, that's like it's like there's your sign.
yeah.
Like,
That's this is the
chill
moment where you
out.
should stop.
Stop looking at these people's art and just do your own thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. But this is the same like with social media and everything. People look at what other people are doing and they think, "Oh my god, I never go on cool holidays or I never have money for anything or whatever."
Mm,
And it's all a mirage and it's not real. And you don't
yeah.
know what's behind those pictures and you don't know what's behind the piece that you're looking at.
Yeah. That's one thing, yeah, I've definitely learned is, you know, I see like some amazing work sometimes and I'm like, oh man, I just need to get better work out. That's just, what I need to do because people aren't seeing like my real abilities or whatever or something like that. And it's like, I don't know, like I have to and then when I try to do that kind of art, it's like it takes a long time and it's like distracting me from other things and I'm realizing, well, these people, yes, they made an amazing thing, but like you said, you don't know what goes behind that. You don't know how much time they actually spent. Like it takes a lot long. Like I'm always underestimating how long it's going to take me to do something, when it comes to art. And
Yeah.
it takes a lot longer, sometimes than you think. These people, yeah, they did an amazing thing, but they're also spending like ridiculous amounts of time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's not only you, I think that's everybody. I think that we all underestimate the effort and time something takes. We just look at the end product and it's just difficult to, how do you know, looking at that finished product, what it takes to make that? You've never been through that process, you don't know.
Hmm.
So that's a general thing. I completely overestimate my speed constantly. So I've learned to not trust my initial estimation. I just go like, okay, so I think this should take 3 weeks, so it should probably take me 2 months.
Hmm.
But I'm gonna go for 3 weeks,
Yeah.
but not be disappointed when it takes 3 months.
And it's hard to not be disappointed though, especially if you have like, if part of your goals are to make a living, with this stuff. Not everybody's goals are that, but if it is, like, you know, and you say it's going to take me like 3 weeks and it takes you 3 months, like, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's not ideal, is it? No, yeah, I
It's
totally
good.
get you. Yeah,
So, like right now, I have an illustration job. It's very small. I should actually call it a commission job because that's really what it is, I guess. But, um, and I already, like last night, I spent time in my sketchbook while we were watching TV just working on it. And, I probably spent like a good hour and a half. And it's like the amount I'm getting paid for this, like an hour and a half should be the most I spend on making this thing. And, this is just the beginning stage right now. So
Yes.
it's like I spent an hour and a half and really it's like, oh man, I'm really going to be working for like pennies at this point when it comes to
Yeah,
time.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that happens. That happens to me as well. I don't know if I told you the story of this comic that I did, and I quoted the time I quoted for a 26-page comic in color was 6 months.
Hmm.
I laugh because it's like thinking back at I just wasn't aware of the time it actually takes to make a comic.
Mm,
So it took me a year, right?
mm, wow.
Because I was doing it part time and it was like a side thing. And I said, yeah, sure, I can finish it in 6 months. And I was like, no way in hell. Doing it like an hour a day or half an hour a day, you are
Yeah.
going to finish a color comic, 26-page color comic in 6 months.
And then I
No way.
guess you were doing everything for it, right? Penciling, inking, coloring,
Yes,
lettering.
I was. I was. No, lettering, no. I wasn't doing the lettering.
Oh, well,
Thank God
there you
for
go.
that
At
because
least
I
you
hate lettering.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing. I used to get really discouraged. It's like, oh, Jack Kirby could do 3 pages a day. Yeah, but he was
Oh,
only penciling. And
exactly.
he
Yeah.
and he also almost always drew in a six panel grid or less, and it was the same shape and sizes, for the most part.
Yes.
So he had like a
It,
formula, and also he was Jack Kirby.
yeah, that helps. That tends to help. And also,
With
he was a professional with an office, and he had done it for many many years, and he was fast as heck because he had done it a million times. It
Yeah,
wasn't his first comic.
yeah. So, and I'm trying to do that same production, doing penciling, inking, coloring, lettering, writing. So
Yes.
it's like, okay, give yourself a little break.
Yeah, give yourself at least a pat in the back. I don't know if a break would be the best idea, but
Yeah, well, that's what I
sometimes we
mean.
don't give ourselves enough credit. It's like you're doing everything. Stop comparing yourself with somebody that, you know.
Yeah. I mean like an emotional break. I don't mean like stop working. Just
Ah,
like
right, yeah.
just like yeah, give yourself some slack, It's okay. You don't have to be a super person.
Yes, absolutely. There's a point. I think there's a point like everything else where if you're being self-critical and you're being demanding, it's good, and then it reaches that inflection point where it stops being good,
Yeah.
and it's just finding that sweet spot where you need to stop being hard on yourself.
Yeah. And also, I find myself like a lot of times I'm still like new enough and trying enough things that a lot of what I'm doing is new. Like it's stuff I've never done before or I haven't even done that much. So it's like it always takes way longer when you're doing something you've never done before or when you're still new at it
Yeah,
than once you get to the point where you're like, all right, I've done this a million times. I just got to kind of do these steps. Like once you get to that point, you can start knocking stuff out a lot quicker. I don't know. Like
absolutely.
I wonder though, like, will I ever get to that point? Because I feel like when I'm not doing something new, I don't know. I think I'm addicted to doing new stuff that's new,
Yeah.
which is not a great thing. I mean, even with my comics, like my goal is to make like a new comic every month, sort of. I mean, I've started to adjust that to maybe this is going to be where I'm working on the same comic for 3 months or whatever. But still, like, I want to do a bunch of new different stories, and each time I have to create a new world and I have to write this new story, and like, I don't know.
Jeez. Yeah, yeah, it's a bit much, isn't it?
Every time that makes that just makes it so much harder than if I was like, okay, I'm doing corn cob rob this year. Like by the end of the year, I'd be knocking out pages so fast. It would be crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
But
yeah, that's my experience too, because I had never done a series before. And now that I'm doing graduation nightmares, it's just easier because I know how the house they live in looks like. I know how they all look like. I've drawn them by now, like I think I've done 50 pages or something like that. And I know of by heart how they look. I don't need to look at a reference sheet or something. I just know how to draw them. And it helps. It helps be, be like it I've become a lot faster doing a series than I've ever been doing strips or like one shots. So
yeah,
it definitely makes a difference.
yeah. I mean, even in this one corn cob rob comic, like last month, the first half, like I was figuring out what the skate park looked like that it mostly takes place in, and I was figuring out a lot of stuff even with the few characters I had in it. And now this month it's like, oh, I actually know what this, you know, set piece looks like. I've drawn it a few times already. Now I can actually go in and mess with the perspective and make it look really good, you know. And I don't
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's just coming a lot easier on the second, even just on the second half. So I don't know, it's pretty cool. But
Yeah.
it almost makes me want to work on like a series instead of like all these different projects. But I don't know if I'll be able to do that.
Yeah, I had never before committed to doing a series, but I have to say that I'm enjoying it a lot, and the more I do it, the more I enjoy it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think I do too, actually. So I don't know. We shall see how things progress.
Yep.
But it is about that time for me to get going to work.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so let's see. Let me see if I can get back to. I didn't even look at the chat or even think about it, to be honest, which I guess that means it's a good episode. We're having a good conversation. Oh, wow. We do have some chat. Let's see. Let's check it out. We got Fue Storm saying hello. Dave says the title is too confusing. Um, hmm, yeah, I guess I could see that. There's like three different elements. I'm actually going to retitle it because we actually had kind of a topic here, so I'm going to change that a little bit. But yeah, sorry about that. Everybody's just saying, hey, CB Smallwood's here. What's up, CB? Let's see. Oh, he was going to maybe join in. That would have been cool, man. One of these days. I definitely would love to have you. Let's see. Natural, they're talking to each other. Out of interest, does anyone here have any bad habits when they are drawing comics? Yeah, most of my habits are bad. um, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a struggle, like to the point where it's like I'm hoping to get some good habits going. But I mean,
Yeah, me
one
too.
of my worst habits is I just fake a lot of stuff. Like I'll fake perspective, but I notice as I keep faking perspective over and over, I'm starting to actually do it right a little bit. So I don't know. It's like the entry point. Um,
This is a weird case, extreme case of fake it till you make it.
exactly. um, let's see. What would you say? Do you have any bad habits drawing comics?
Yeah, I told you, like so many. I do floating heads. I don't block things in before drawing them, and I draw the panel I like best before, and then I get bored, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to draw houses. Just terrible, terrible, all of it.
Yeah, It's like if you were to like examine the insecurities of a comic book artist, you would find many.
Yes, yes. Don't even go there. we we're gonna end up jumping out the window.
Um, yeah, I'm just reading the comments. They're kind of talking about the bad habits thing. I don't do enough character designs, Dave Hingley says in my stuff, and I don't do the gutter until right at the end when I color the art. Oh, I
Oh,
think CB kind of does a similar thing when it comes to the gutters.
that's a really
Uh,
bad habit.
yeah.
Not to
Um,
pick on Dave, but I used to do that and I stopped. So it's like I'll
yeah.
draw, I'll be free, and then I'll create the panel around it.
See, I'm like the opposite. I love drawing the panels first because it's like, oh, cool, now I can draw in those little squares. That's fun.
I hate drawing the panels. It's like, oh, a ruler. I don't like rulers. I don't know why.
Oh, I don't use rulers. You kidding me?
What?
I don't even use rulers. I just use so far. I mean, I think I did use rulers with some comics I've done, but this so far this whole corn cob Rob, I haven't used one ruler.
Oh,
Um, so yeah, I don't know. It's meant to be a rougher style though, so it kind of
yeah,
works.
that's all right.
Um, and Dave said he doesn't do enough character designs, and Fue said he agrees he's the same way, and I'm the same thing. I've definitely created characters right on the page. For this second half of Corn Cob Rob, I had a bunch of new characters, and I had to. That's kind of what took some of the time up. Is I had to create like six new characters. So that was the work I did. Some days I only had like a half an hour to do, and I went with the first characters design I came up with most of the time. Which is also is not a good thing really, but it
Yep.
is what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, I my excuse is that I think about a basic shape, and that's design, right? So I tell
Hmm.
myself, okay, so I'm not iterating, I'm not changing the design, but at least I know that Helena has to look like a balloon and Alex has to look like a mushroom. So I have an idea, but then
Yeah.
I don't do actual design. I just think about the shape and then do the first thing, and the first thing's good enough.
Mm. Yep. Same here. Daniel Ebert says he skips the writing part and goes straight to thumbnails. Oh man, I'm even
Oh
worse than
yeah.
that. Peter Palmiotti was asking about how people's writing habits are on Facebook yesterday, and I was like, well, basically, I dictate to my phone while I'm doing other stuff. I dictate some stuff, and then halfway through, I get bored and I just end up going right to the page, and then I just kind of make it up on the page. So I don't know. My writing is so ridiculous. It could barely even be called writing sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, I can agree with that. I started my graduation nightmares not writing at all. I didn't even know what the story was about when I started. And then as I progressed, I was like, maybe I should have an idea what the scene is about. And then little by little, I started writing it. And I think I'm learning a little bit and I'm being better. But writing, like writing, I don't do writing. I do
I will.
thumbnailing.
Yeah, yeah. Pretty much same here. I will say that each time I make a comic, my writing gets a little more sophisticated.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I am getting better, and I have written like just prose type stuff too before a little bit. So I mean, I'm not afraid of writing, but I'm also so anxious to get to the drawing part of it, and especially if I'm doing a comic every month, I have to kind of have that really quick and dirty process.
Yeah,
Um, so.
absolutely.
But anyways, I do have to get going. It's starting to get kind of tight here, but thanks again, Teresa, for coming on.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And her links are in the description. My links are in the description. I'm not gonna go too crazy into that, but definitely check out Teresa's work. Her stuff is awesome. And yeah, if you want to be involved in SHEcember as well, there's a link in the description. All those links are there. But I thank you guys for hanging out in the chat. You guys always rock. And everybody watching on the replay. And I will talk to you guys later.